Chosen one, you are here now because you were chosen. Not by chance, not by the randomness of history, but by divine appointment. God prepared me to tell you that you are here to rule and remain as a living decree of heaven on earth. Today, I tell you the truth. You have been chosen to lead a revolution against corruption, against the arrogance of governments that rise up against justice, against systems that enslave people under the illusion of power. But this revolution is not one of chaos or blind rebellion. It is a revolution of order, restoration, and divine rule. You are not called to fight endlessly in the shadows, but to emerge into the light as one who carries the authority to rebuild what has been broken. This is the moment to realize that your authority is not borrowed, not given by man. It is sealed in eternity. So, stop with me for a moment. If these words are piercing you, if you feel them echoing in your spirit as a confirmation of who you are, then I want you to engage with this message with faith. Comment below right now, New Age of God, to declare to the universe that the revolution has arrived. And take this moment to like and subscribe to this channel, for you need to consistently walk under words that awaken your leadership and remind you of your mission. It may seem small, but they are prophetic actions, aligning you with the voice of God speaking through this revelation prepared for you, which will transform the way you see yourself, your mission, and your future. And before we go deeper, let me tell you something important. With everything I'm about to share here, you also have access to an even clearer and deeper guide. In the Manual of God's Chosen Warrior, I'll lead you through 10 steps to live divinely prosperous, including in your financial life. The link to your manual is already available in the description or in the first pinned comment. At the end of this video, I'll tell you more about it, but if you want, you can click right now. There is a mystery surrounding your calling that only those who are truly awake can understand. You have always felt different, as if the world around you operated on one frequency while your spirit resonated on another. This tension is not a mistake. It is evidence that you are aligned with a kingdom not of this world. When God marks someone as a governor under his authority, the signs are visible long before the crown is placed upon the head. People may misinterpret you, underestimate you, or even resist you, but the evidence remains. You were chosen to shake the foundations of corrupted power and establish something that cannot be overturned. The mystery is not whether you will rise, but when. And the Spirit is whispering that the time is near, closer than you think, for your authority to manifest. The urgency of this moment cannot be ignored. We live in days when governments collapse under the weight of their own corruption, when leaders exchange truth for lies, when the people cry out for justice but are handed deception. And here you are, standing between the despair of the present and the promise of the future. If you wait too long, if you shrink back in fear, the opportunity will not only pass by you, but countless lives will continue in chains that you were meant to break. God does not reveal identity without reason. He awakens you because the time demands your voice, your vision, and your courage. This is not about tomorrow or some distant future. It is about now, and every delay strengthens the hand of the corrupt. The urgency rests heavy upon you because the revolution begins with your response. Governments today are nothing more than hollow empires built upon fragile promises. Corruption flows through their systems like poison in the bloodstream of a nation. Leaders sworn to protect their people have instead traded loyalty for greed, authority for self-preservation. And while the world becomes numb to this decay, you, chosen one, cannot ignore it. Your spirit rises in revolt every time injustice is normalized. That is not coincidence, nor is it weakness. It is evidence that heaven planted within you a fire that cannot be extinguished. You were not designed to adapt to corrupt systems, but to outlast and overturn them. The burden you carry is not frustration. It is divine strategy, a calling that insists you step into position as an answer to a generation drowning in political lies. Corruption is not simply about money stolen or promises broken. It is spiritual. It is a distortion of authority, a manipulation of trust, a rebellion against divine order. When those in power no longer serve the people but exploit them, they are no longer legitimate in the eyes of heaven. And this is where your calling intersects both the spiritual and the political. You are not merely one who prays in secret, but one who governs in public. God is raising leaders who are both prophetic and practical, warriors who can stand against spiritual oppression, and legislators who can reform earthly systems. This is why your burden feels heavier than others, because your battlefield is not confined to church walls. Your battlefield stretches into government halls, financial systems, and cultural structures. You are called to confront the root, not just the surface. You know this already in the silence of your heart. While others sleep, you wrestle with visions of a future that seems impossible but undeniable. You see beyond the corruption of today into a blueprint of tomorrow. Yet this vision comes with pain, because you live surrounded by ruins while carrying the plan for restoration. It feels like holding the design of a palace while walking through broken stones. This is exactly how God prepares His chosen leaders. He makes them dream of wholeness while walking among fragments, so that when the time comes, they do not build from imagination alone, but from compassion for the broken. Your sleepless nights are not accidents. They are alignments. You are rehearsing the future within your spirit before it unfolds in the natural. Think of David. Before the throne was his. He had already been anointed king by Samuel, but the world still saw him as a shepherd boy. The oil on his head declared his future, but the system around him did not yet recognize it. That is the exact place you are standing in now. Anointed, but not enthroned. Chosen, but not yet crowned. And while that gap feels frustrating, it is part of the divine design. God trains His rulers in hidden places, far from the applause of men, so that when they are lifted, their character is stronger than their crown. Do not despise this stage of being unseen, because it is forging the strength that corruption cannot bend. You are in the same divine tension that prepared David, and soon the world will see what heaven already declared. Revolutions do not begin with armies. They begin with awareness. The moment one person sees through deception, the system is already cracked. You are that crack in the walls of corruption. Your ability to see what others ignore is proof that the revolution has already begun. You may feel alone at times, but every vision you carry is a seed planted by the Spirit, waiting for its appointed season to break the soil. When Moses first confronted Pharaoh, the people did not even believe him. But God does not send a deliverer for no reason. Likewise, your awareness is not random. It is heaven's announcement that time is shifting, that a new government is on the horizon, and that you, chosen one, are being positioned to lead that shift with wisdom, courage, and authority. The prophetic role upon your life is not only to announce what is coming, but to expose what is hidden. Prophets in Scripture were never entertainers. They were disruptors of corruption. Nathan confronted King David when sin entered his leadership. Elijah confronted Ahab when idolatry swallowed Israel. And John the Baptist declared truth even to Herod's face. In the same way, your words are not meant to soothe comfortable people, but to awaken nations. This is why your voice feels heavier than most. It is designed to carry authority that governments cannot silence. When you speak, you will cut through deception, not because of eloquence, but because heaven itself backs your sound. You are being prepared as a prophetic voice, not locked inside religious walls, but one that confronts power structures with divine truth and clarity. The political role upon you is equally undeniable. It is not enough for truth to be declared. It must also be structured into systems that govern nations. This is why you feel torn between the spiritual and the practical. Because your mission was never meant to remain in one dimension. Just as Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream, but also executed an economic plan that saved nations, so you are called not only to hear from God, but to legislate solutions. Politics without the prophetic becomes corrupt, and the prophetic without politics becomes powerless. You are the bridge between both dimensions, sent to govern with wisdom that does not come from books alone, but from the counsel of heaven itself. This is why you cannot settle for small thinking. Your mandate is larger than survival. The spiritual war you face is invisible yet undeniable. Every corrupt government has spiritual roots, ideologies that exalt men above God, systems that enslave minds before enslaving bodies. The Apostle Paul wrote that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. That means when you confront corruption in government, you are not only dealing with policies but with demonic structures that hide behind them. Your prayers are weapons, your discernment is strategy, and your voice is a sword. You may feel resistance in strange ways, delays, betrayals, constant battles in your mind. This is proof that you are not dealing with small matters, but with thrones and dominions trembling at your awakening. Yet the practical war is just as real. You will not only battle spiritual deception, but earthly agendas designed to silence and discredit you. Media manipulation, distorted narratives, and even systems of law may be twisted against your mission. Corruption thrives on intimidation, and it will attempt to corner you with fear. But remember, every chosen leader in Scripture faced the same resistance. Daniel was threatened with death for praying. Joseph was accused falsely, and even Jesus himself was targeted by political and religious leaders. You are not the first to carry a mission that threatens systems of power. The attacks you face are not personal. They are strategic, because those who fear losing control know that the arrival of a righteous leader is the end of their reign. This tension often makes you doubt yourself. You ask questions like, why me? Why do I feel this burden while others live carefree? This inner conflict is part of your preparation. Every chosen leader wrestled with the weight of their calling. Moses argued with God that he was not eloquent enough. Jeremiah felt too young. Gideon hid from responsibility, and yet all of them were used mightily to shift history. Your doubt is not disqualification. It is evidence that you understand the gravity of your mission. Corrupt leaders walk in arrogance. Chosen leaders tremble before they rise. That trembling you feel is the sign that you are aligned with heaven's will. Do not mistake it for weakness. It is the sacred pressure that forges true authority. Think of Nehemiah, who was burdened by the ruins of Jerusalem before he ever laid a stone. He wept, he fasted, and he prayed because he saw what others ignored. That burden turned into blueprints, and those blueprints became a movement that rebuilt an entire city. You are in that same place now. Your tears are not wasted. Your frustration is not meaningless. They are the signs of a divine architect preparing to build. You may feel that your current position is insignificant, but Nehemiah was only a cupbearer before he became a reformer. Do not despise the season of waiting, Because it is in the hidden places that God downloads the strategies you will one day use in public. The weight you carry is the seed of government already planted within you. Your vision feels larger than your reality, and that is what makes it so heavy to bear. You see corruption exposed on a global scale, you sense injustice rising in every sphere, and you know deep within that there must be restoration. Yet you look at your own life and wonder how such a great mission could possibly unfold through you. This tension between vision and reality is not a mistake. It is divine design. Every chosen leader walked with promises bigger than their present. David held the anointing of kingship while still running from Saul. Joseph dreamed of rulership while sitting in a prison. You are walking in that same paradox, but the paradox is proof that your mission is not self-made. It is evidence that God Himself is orchestrating your rise in His perfect timing. There is also the pain of carrying a calling that few around you can understand. While others live for the moment, you live with the weight of eternity pressing upon your chest. You try to explain it, but words fail. Because how can you describe to ordinary minds the visions of nations, the burden of justice, the responsibility of rebuilding what is broken? This loneliness is part of the cost of being chosen. Elijah once felt he was the only prophet left in Israel. Jeremiah was rejected by his own people, and even Jesus walked with disciples who often misunderstood him. So when you feel isolated, remember that solitude has always been the companion of visionaries. You are not strange for feeling alone. You are marked. And in that solitude, heaven whispers strategies that crowds could never hear. What looks like rejection is often God's way of separating you for clarity, away from distractions, so that when you step forward, you do so with certainty that cannot be shaken by the doubts of those who never carried your weight. Scripture shows us a repeated pattern. God always raises leaders who seem improbable to human eyes. Gideon called himself the least of his tribe, Moses was exiled as a shepherd, and David was dismissed by his own father. These were not the most qualified in human standards, but they were chosen because their strength came from obedience and not from pride. That same paradox rests upon you. Perhaps you feel unqualified, unequipped, or underprepared, yet heaven sees you as ready. What qualifies you is not your resume, but your willingness to yield to God's plan. In fact, the very weaknesses you despise about yourself are often the places where God reveals His power most clearly. Paul wrote that God's strength is perfected in weakness, and that truth has never been more relevant than in your life now. You are not called to be flawless, you are called to be faithful. And faithfulness has always been the true mark of authority in God's kingdom. The revolution that is rising inside you does not start with banners or weapons, but with alignment in the Spirit. Before governments collapse in the natural, they collapse in the invisible. The moment you refuse to bow to corruption in your own heart, you have already begun the overthrow of corrupted systems. Integrity is the first battlefield, and every choice you make in private builds the strength you will need in public. This is why God allows tests behind closed doors, because how you handle temptation, compromise, or discouragement in secret determines the authority you will carry when the world is watching. If you want to lead nations tomorrow, you must first learn to govern your own soul today. The small victories you win over pride, fear, and despair are seeds that will grow into massive victories over the systems that enslave entire populations. Do not underestimate the power of what happens in secret. It is the hidden foundation of the revolution you were born to lead. There will be resistance, not only from external systems, but also from those closest to you. Many times, it is not the stranger who questions your calling, but the friend, the relative, the one who should have believed in you. This pain is sharper because betrayal always cuts deeper when it comes from trusted hands. Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, not enemies. Jesus was betrayed by Judas, not by soldiers. David was hunted by Saul, a leader he once served faithfully. These betrayals are not accidents. They are prophetic signs that your destiny threatens those who fear being replaced by truth. The good news is that betrayal cannot cancel God's plan. It only accelerates it. Every time someone rejects you or misuses your loyalty, remember that it is part of the blueprint of preparation. You are learning now what true leadership requires: the strength to keep walking with vision, even when those around you abandon or betray. Systems of corruption will not sit silently while you rise. They will attempt to intimidate you, to distract you, to suffocate your mission with false accusations and relentless pressure. The media may twist your words, the culture may mock your values, and governments may frame you as a threat simply because you carry unshakable integrity. But these attacks are not signs that you are failing. They are signs that you are rising. Darkness never fights what does not threaten it. If you were irrelevant, you would be ignored. The fact that resistance follows you is confirmation that your influence is already disrupting corrupted structures. This is why Scripture shows us Daniel, who was targeted because his integrity exposed the weaknesses of his enemies. When they could not find corruption in him, they created false laws to trap him. Expect the same, but also expect the same outcome: God delivering you and proving His power in the midst of opposition. There is also the battlefield of the mind, which is often fiercer than the conflicts outside. Fear whispers that you are not enough. Discouragement tries to silence your hope, and doubt attempts to erase your vision. These internal wars can feel more exhausting than any external enemy because they attack the very core of who you are. Yet the fact that your mind is under such siege is proof of the importance of what you carry. If your mission were small, the enemy would not bother to torment your thoughts. This is why renewing your mind daily with truth is vital. Declare who you are, remind yourself of what God has spoken, and refuse to let lies dictate your destiny. Jesus himself faced temptation in the wilderness not with silence, but with Scripture, declaring truth until the adversary left. You must do the same. Fight not with emotion, but with revelation. Your mind is the first government you are called to rule. Daniel is your model in this generation. He lived under corrupt empires, yet never allowed those empires to define him. He was thrown into a den of lions because he refused to bow, and yet his integrity elevated him higher than his enemies. What stands out in Daniel's story is not only his faith in prayer, but his wisdom in governance. He was a prophet, yes, but also a statesman, trusted to oversee kingdoms because his excellence could not be denied. That balance of spiritual authority and political influence is the same mantle resting upon you. Do not believe the lie that you must choose between being spiritual or practical. You are both. You are called to interpret mysteries and implement strategies, to speak heaven's truth, and to govern earthly systems. The story of Daniel is proof that the chosen can thrive even in hostile systems, because heaven's authority outranks every earthly throne. The dilemma of integrity is one of the greatest battles you will face as a chosen leader. To govern with justice means refusing the shortcuts that corruption offers. It means losing opportunities that others grasp because you refuse to bow your convictions. This battle feels unfair at times because you watch those who compromise rise quickly, while your own path seems delayed. But remember, everything built on lies collapses in time. Integrity is slower, but it is eternal. The chosen are not called to sprint toward shallow crowns. They are called to walk steadily toward unshakable thrones. When you feel tempted to compromise just to accelerate your influence, remind yourself that your authority does not come from man, but from God. And what God establishes, no human can overthrow. The cost of integrity is high, but the reward is governance that no corrupted system can outlast. The global atmosphere is filled with tension, and you feel it in your spirit, even when others cannot articulate it. Nations are trembling, economies are unstable, and societies are hungry for leadership that is both strong and just. The world is not simply in political crisis, it is in spiritual famine. That is why your mission feels so urgent. Because you were born for such a time as this. While the masses cry out for answers, you carry solutions already embedded in your spirit. These solutions are not just dreams, they are blueprints heaven prepared long before corruption rose to power. And when the appointed time comes, you will see that everything you carried in silence was meant to meet the desperate cries of a generation. Every pain you have endured, every betrayal, every delay has been a training ground for the role you are destined to play. You thought you were suffering without purpose, but in reality, you were being forged. The weight of responsibility cannot rest on weak shoulders, so heaven has been strengthening you through trials. Just as fire purifies gold, your challenges have refined your character until you became unshakable. You may not have understood why certain doors closed, why certain people walked away, or why the journey seemed longer for you than for others. But now you see, every detail was orchestrated to prepare you for authority. The chosen are not spared from pain. They are shaped by it, so that when their time of governance arrives, their leadership carries depth and wisdom. At times, it feels like the entire world is against you. Obstacles rise on every side. People misunderstand your motives, and even systems seem designed to suffocate your potential. This overwhelming resistance creates the illusion that you are failing. Yet the truth is the opposite. Resistance is proof of progress. No one fights what is irrelevant. The moment you began stepping into your calling, you became a target. But this does not mean you are losing. It means you are essential. The enemy always strikes hardest at those who carry the greatest impact. So when you feel the pressure intensifying, see it as confirmation that your influence is already shaking the foundations of corruption. You are closer to your breakthrough than you realize. The story of Joseph reflects your own journey. He dreamed of leadership, but his brothers betrayed him, and his path seemed to move further from the throne with every step. Sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison, everything looked like failure. Yet all of those detours were actually positioning him for the exact place where his destiny would unfold. Egypt's famine became his platform. In the same way, the hardships you face are not detours, but preparation. God is weaving circumstances to place you exactly where your leadership will be most needed. Your pain is prophetic positioning. When the moment comes, you will not only rise, but you will carry the wisdom to govern nations with justice and foresight, because you learned to endure the fire without losing your vision. The tension grows heavier because you sense that the time of manifestation is drawing near. The signs are undeniable. The world is shaking, systems are failing, and the cries for justice grow louder. Deep within, you know you were born for this convergence. Yet with that awareness comes an intensity of pressure. The closer a seed comes to breaking through the soil, the heavier the weight feels. That is what you are experiencing now. The contractions of destiny are pressing, not to destroy you, but to push you into visibility. Do not misinterpret the heaviness. It is the labor of birth. The very pain you feel is proof that something is about to emerge. And when it does, the world will finally witness what heaven has been preparing in secret. Everything seems to conspire against stability. And yet, you are called to be the unshakable center in the middle of chaos. Leadership is not about ruling when times are easy. It is about standing when everything else is collapsing. That is why you were chosen. You are not fragile, though at times you feel the cracks of exhaustion. You are resilient, built to endure storms that others cannot survive. The world does not need leaders who echo its fear. It needs leaders who embody faith. You are that leader. And when you rise, you will not only carry yourself, you will carry nations, cultures, and systems into a new alignment with the will of God. This is the gravity of your calling. This is the weight of your revolution. The chosen ones always carry within them a fire that refuses to be extinguished, and this fire grows hotter in seasons of crisis. Right now, you are witnessing not just political corruption, but the collapse of systems that were never built on justice to begin with. The cries of the poor, the frustration of the silenced, and the despair of the oppressed are reaching heaven. And heaven has already responded by placing its authority upon you. This is why your heart cannot settle in apathy. You feel restless when you see injustice normalized, because your spirit knows that you were called to confront it. That unrest is divine agitation, pushing you to step out of silence and into action. The fire you feel is not anger for anger's sake. It is zeal born from heaven to fuel a revolution that will bring both order and restoration to a broken world. When you look back over your journey, you realize the pain you endured was never wasted. Every betrayal, every delay, every season of silence was shaping something indestructible inside you. While others built on fragile foundations, you were being established on stone. This is why storms came against you, but could not erase you. You were not meant to crumble like those who rise quickly and fall just as fast. You were meant to endure until the right moment, when your rise would not just be personal, but generational. And that moment is drawing near. You were tested in fire so that when nations place their trust upon your leadership, you will stand steady. It is this unshakable core, built through trials, that qualifies you to govern when all else falls apart. The world is entering a time of confrontation between truth and deception, and you are called to stand at the very center of that battlefield. The corruption you see is not random. It is deliberate, orchestrated by forces that seek to enslave minds and silence voices of truth. Yet in the middle of this storm, God has placed within you a voice that cannot be silenced. When you speak, it will not be with the empty promises of politicians, but with the clarity of divine authority. Your words will pierce through deception like light piercing darkness. This is why your preparation has been long and heavy, because when you finally step forward, it will not just be another leader rising, it will be heaven's answer stepping into human history. The stability of nations often depends on leaders who understand both the weight of heaven and the realities of earth. And that is exactly the dual mantle placed upon you. You are not only a dreamer, but a strategist. You are not only a prophet, but a reformer. The revolution God is birthing through you is not chaotic, but precise, planned with wisdom that flows from divine counsel. Think of Joseph once more. He interpreted the dream, yes, but then he designed the entire system to preserve nations in famine. That is your call, to combine revelation with administration, to merge vision with governance. Others may carry one or the other, but you were chosen because you can walk in both realms. This balance is what makes you dangerous to corruption and precious to God's purpose. The pressure you feel is evidence that your moment of manifestation is approaching. Do not mistake opposition for abandonment. Every chosen leader has faced the fury of corrupted systems before stepping into destiny. Moses faced Pharaoh's wrath. Elijah faced Jezebel's threats. Esther faced the laws of Persia, and yet all triumphed because heaven's decree cannot be overturned by human law. You stand in that same stream of history. The opposition you face today is the clearest proof that your authority is already recognized in the unseen realm. The adversary fights hardest before the breakthrough because he knows what is coming. Stand firm, chosen one, because the resistance you endure now is only a shadow compared to the authority you are about to reveal. The shift will not only affect you, but entire systems. When a chosen leader rises, the atmosphere changes. The corrupt tremble, the oppressed gain hope, and the ordinary suddenly awaken to the possibility of justice. This is what you carry. You are not being raised for personal elevation, but for collective transformation. God does not crown you for your own comfort. He crowns you for the sake of nations. Your rise will mark the fall of false powers and the beginning of structures that align with divine order. And though it feels heavy to carry such responsibility, know this: you were built for it. Heaven designed you not to escape the world, but to govern it with righteousness. This is the reason you were chosen and why you cannot remain silent any longer. The revelation is becoming clearer. You are not a victim of corruption, but a pioneer of transformation. What once felt like endless waiting was really divine preparation. You are not trapped. You are being positioned. Every delay was alignment. Every pain was training. Every loss was pruning to ensure that when your moment comes, nothing within you would sabotage what God has placed upon you. This realization shifts your entire perspective. You are not surviving the storm. You are mastering it. You are not barely holding on. You are rising. The revolution is not just around you. It is within you. And soon the world will see what heaven has already declared, that you are God's warrior, His reformer, and the architect of a future government that corruption cannot destroy. The throne in the spiritual always precedes the throne in the natural, and this is the mystery of your journey. Long before others recognize your authority, heaven has already sealed it. When Samuel anointed David, nothing visibly changed around him. He was still a shepherd boy, still overlooked by his own family, still dismissed by those in positions of power. Yet in the unseen, everything had shifted. The oil marked him as king, even though the throne was still occupied by Saul. This is the reality of your own calling. You may still walk in places that feel small, surrounded by people who cannot see your true potential. But the decree has already gone forth in the heavens. And just as no one could stop David's rise, no system can block the unfolding of what God has declared over you. Every trial you endured was not punishment, but preparation. When lions came against David in the fields, they were not accidents. They were training for Goliath. When Joseph faced betrayal and prison, those were not diversions but divine positioning for the palace. You, too, have walked through fire not to be consumed, but to be refined. Every disappointment was sharpening your discernment, every betrayal was fortifying your resilience, and every season of silence was deepening your dependence on God rather than man. This is why you must stop asking, "Why me?" and begin declaring, "For this purpose I was born." The weight of your trials proves the magnitude of your destiny, and the fact that you are still standing is evidence that you are already equipped for the next stage of authority. The greatest revelation you must embrace now is that the war you fight is not against people, but against systems. The enemy wants you distracted, angry at individuals, wasting energy in personal vendettas, but heaven is showing you a bigger picture. The corruption that you see in leaders is only the visible expression of deeper, darker roots that run through cultures, economies, and ideologies. If you fight the surface, the roots remain. But if you confront the roots, entire systems collapse. This is why you are being trained with wisdom beyond your years, because you are called not just to resist corruption, but to uproot it entirely. You will not waste your energy on shallow battles. You will strike at the foundation. And in doing so, you will liberate generations. Governments do not fall merely from external threats. They collapse from within when built without divine foundation. History proves it. Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, all mighty in their time, yet all fell because they exalted pride over God's order. Today's shaking is not random. It is the unraveling of man-made systems. But while old empires fall, you are being raised, not to critique, but to construct. You carry the burden of blueprints from heaven. Your vision is detailed because your calling is strategic. You are not a commentator in this hour of history. You are a reformer, appointed to lay foundations rooted in righteousness that will outlast this generation. Your trials were not setbacks, but strategies. Every delay deepened your wisdom. Every betrayal expanded your capacity. Every false accusation refined your discernment. These battles were not meant to destroy, but to shape a leader worthy of enduring impact. The wounds taught you more than books ever could. And now, what once felt like survival becomes momentum. You are not a victim of chaos. You are a builder in the ruins, chosen to establish divine order where others only see collapse. The pain was not in vain. It was preparation. What once tried to silence you has only confirmed that your voice carries the sound of justice. You are stepping into a future where leadership will no longer be built on charisma, but on character. The process felt long because shortcuts would have sabotaged the foundation. The world is weary of empty promises and hungry for incorruptible leadership. That is why your journey required fire. For fire reveals what's genuine. Your integrity is your platform, and your authority flows not from influence, but from authenticity. You are the kind of leader the world didn't know it needed. Scarred, but unshaken. Tested, but true. This is not about personal glory. It is about being a living answer to broken systems, a blueprint for a government built on truth, justice, and endurance. The true hallmark of chosen leadership is endurance beyond opposition. While empires built on corruption crumble, those rooted in divine purpose leave legacies that echo through centuries. Moses, David, and Daniel were not perfect men, but faithful ones. Faithful in secret, in hardship, and in waiting. That same faithfulness is being demanded of you now. You are not being evaluated by how fast you rise, but by how deeply you endure. For when the time comes, your unveiling will silence every doubt. Those who mocked your obscurity will be witnesses to your undeniable authority. Your calling is not fragile. It is sealed by heaven and unshakable by man. And now, you are stepping into leadership not just recognized by people, but appointed by God. Every act of integrity you make today is laying the invisible foundation of the revolution you will lead tomorrow. Small decisions, choosing truth over comfort, humility over ego, silence over vengeance, are constructing the unseen infrastructure of lasting influence. Heaven watches what no one else sees, because what's built in private determines what can stand in public. If you cannot rule your own appetite, how will you govern cities? If you mishandle a little, how will you steward the weight of nations? This is not a rebuke, but a charge to rise in discipline, to train your mind, spirit, and heart in excellence. While others waste time seeking applause, you are investing in legacy. Because when your moment comes, you won't be preparing. You'll already be proven, forged, and unstoppable. Opposition is no longer your enemy. It is your confirmation. Every attack has exposed another layer of resilience in you. Every lie only amplified your loyalty to truth. Every betrayal taught you what cannot be compromised. Like Joseph, you're learning that your authority doesn't come from circumstances, but from a divine assignment that predates your birth. That's why no gatekeeper can block you. No system can erase you. You are not seeking validation from those blind to your worth. You are walking into a throne already reserved for you. The revolution you carry is not rebellion, it is reformation. And you were not called merely to expose corruption, but to replace it with a blueprint downloaded from heaven. You are not just a survivor. You are the architect of divine governance. True greatness, chosen one, is never measured by domination, but by sacrificial service. Jesus declared that the greatest must be the servant of all, and this principle is the foundation of kingdom leadership. Unlike corrupt systems that exploit the weak, you are called to serve, protect, and govern with justice. Your leadership will carry a sacred weight, marked by compassion without compromise, power without oppression, and strength without arrogance. Each decision you make becomes a generational seed, impacting not just your moment, but the future. Just as Abraham's obedience became the covenant of nations, your obedience will birth principles and systems that sustain people long after you are gone. This revolution you carry is not about temporary power. It's about legacy, about divine impact that shifts history. That is why integrity is non-negotiable. Your influence will touch too many lives for hidden faults to remain unaddressed. God's refining fire is not punishment, it's protection. The private discipline you're undergoing now will guard your public destiny later. When the time comes, your rise will be unshakable, not because you sought perfection, but because you allowed God to build unshakable character. Yet this calling is not limited to sermons or sacred places. The kingdom of God touches every structure: economics, politics, justice, education. You are not just being prepared to speak truth, but to legislate it. Like Daniel, you will carry divine wisdom into palaces and parliaments, transforming systems from the inside out. Your leadership will demonstrate that God's government is not idealism. It is the most practical and powerful reality the world has ever known. And though your current season may seem hidden, know that heaven sees what is forming. Like seeds in the soil, your roots are growing deep beneath the surface. Guard your secret place with God, for it is there that your authority is forged. The world will see your rise and call it sudden, but you will know it was years of obedience in silence that made it possible. Lift your vision higher. This is not about short-term victories. You are building for centuries. Think beyond your generation. Like David preparing for Solomon, your work is laying foundations others will build upon. This is legacy. This is the true measure of revolutionary leadership. Not how loudly you speak today, but how long your influence echoes through time. You were not chosen just to lead. You were chosen to last. Chosen one. The revolution you are called to lead extends far beyond one nation. It is a global assignment. Spiritually, your mantle was never meant for small things, and politically, your model will inspire systems across the earth. The intensity of your preparation reflects the size of your mission. While humility anchors you, do not confuse it with denial. God's choice upon your life demands boldness, not false modesty. What you carry is designed to shift cultures, governments, and entire generations. Every time you choose righteousness, speak truth, or walk in courage, you're already living the revolution. This isn't about waiting for impact. It's about realizing you've already begun. Divine government begins in you, then spreads outward like fire. Though isolation often accompanies your journey, you are not alone. Across the globe, others have been awakened, bearing the same fire, hearing the same call. You are a key piece of a larger divine strategy, a global alignment of chosen ones rising in unity. The pain you've faced will not be wasted. It becomes your message. Scars turn into credibility, losses into compassion, and betrayals into divine discernment. Your authenticity, born of endurance, sets you apart from false rulers. People will trust your leadership not because you claim perfection, but because your life proves resilience. The world is starved for realness, and you are rising as the evidence that truth can still govern. You are a standard raised for this generation, a prophetic sign of leadership under heaven. Spiritually, you are stepping into your fulfillment. Politically, your rise announces the collapse of corrupted systems and the emergence of divine governance. Your story is no longer just personal, it's collective. This is the hour to lead boldly, knowing you've been formed for such a time as this. Every past delay was divine preparation. Now, the mantle you carry will bring order where chaos once ruled. Your obedience will shift systems. As this journey of revelation ends, your mission begins. Step forward now. Nations are watching, and heaven is backing your every move. Before you go, I want to thank every single one of you who has stood with this channel, who has engaged, commented, and even supported us through Buy Me a Coffee. Your faith and support fuel this mission, and together we are building something that impacts lives around the world. If you feel led, consider joining those who already support, because every seed you sow multiplies into messages like this that reach chosen ones across the earth. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. And if this word spoke directly to your spirit, let it not stay in silence. Declare it by writing, "I am chosen," in the comments, press the like button, and subscribe so that you remain aligned with every revelation released here. These are not just actions, they are agreements with destiny. I bless you now with the courage to embrace your identity fully, with the wisdom to navigate both spiritual and political arenas, and with the strength to endure every challenge until your throne is revealed. May you walk as a warrior of truth, a governor of justice, and a reformer of nations. You are not small, you are not hidden, you are not forgotten. You are God's chosen, raised to lead a revolution that will shake the earth and establish divine order where corruption once ruled. Go forth boldly, for heaven is with you, and nothing can stop what has already been decreed. This is your time. This is your mantle. This is your revolution.